I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
This episode is brought to you by TaxAct. Don't do your taxes alone. Join TaxAct's National Admin Night. Admin nights are social gatherings for getting through your to-do list. So get ready for a night of fun, finding deductions, and filing taxes with TaxAct, where you can file your federal and state return for just $49 through April 8. Let's get together and get them over with. Visit taxact.com/admin-night for details.
Really just needing to feel seen. Like I felt very alone. Social media just made me feel very alone. I just moved to a new town where I didn't know a single person. I went through a bad breakup with someone I loved very deeply. I thought I was going to marry, and I just felt invisible. And in that, my mental health just completely degraded, and I was just desperate to feel like I wasn't as alone as I felt inside my head. And so it's really just kind of an idea of, what if I just walk around and am awkward and have no idea what I'm doing, but just try to talk to people and just try to just see what would happen and come from that.
That is our amazing guest today, Adam Schluter, describing a moment in his life that could be described as rock bottom, but out of that feeling of loneliness and depression and that innate desire to be seen that we all have, rose an idea to buy the cheapest flight he could find to another country and just start talking with strangers, start connecting with people despite being an introvert, despite the possibility of rejection, despite being nervous, to simply talk to strangers and feel less alone. And in this episode, you're going to hear how that simple trip led to countless conversations in 21 countries and thousands of portraits. And when Adam felt lonely in the town he lived in, he also started inviting strangers over for dinner to connect with one another. His Monday night dinners concept exploded, and now hundreds of people come to his dinners each week, and it has created a movement where people are even hosting their own dinners in other towns. It's an incredible story, and you're going to hear us talk about all of it today. All of this eventually did turn into a beautiful project. It all falls under this project called Hello from a Stranger. You can check it out at hellofromastranger.com. Adam's never made a penny with this project. He just genuinely wants to help people connect. And this project has been published 3 times in National Geographic. It was a TED Talk, a Smithsonian finalist, a book, and now they have a show coming out on it. And we'll link up to all that in the show notes. So at the heart of it, this episode is really about the beauty of human connection around the world, what it can do for you, what it can do for anyone feeling lonely, and how you can add more real, authentic connection into your life. As the Irish poet William Butler Yeats said, "There are no strangers here, only friends you haven't met." Welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into yours today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. If you want to keep in touch off the pod, by the way, ZeroToTravel.com/newsletter. You can sign up for our community newsletter. It is free, and that's how you can keep in touch. Okay, let's talk about this episode really quickly before we dive in. One last time, Adam Schluter is here. The genesis of this project is, of course, rooted in travel, as you heard at the top. And I want to thank Adam for being so honest and vulnerable with his story As he said in his email to me when we were booking this interview, his mission is to give back and make a dent in the mental health crisis. And he is certainly giving back today by sharing his story. Whether you're struggling with loneliness, just curious about intentional community building, maybe you want practical ways to get that always lovely hostel kitchen conversation vibe at home. You know, if you've been in a hostel, you've been making a meal, you just start chatting with random people. It's always, I have just such great memories of that. And if you're just wondering how to intentionally use travel as therapy or healing, that's something we talk about. And maybe you just want an inspiring reminder around the importance of human connection, especially in this world today that seems so divided. You're going to love this one. And lastly, I do want to mention this episode contains honest conversation about suicide and depression. If you're struggling with that, please reach out to somebody, talk to somebody you trust, or reach out to one of the suicide and crisis lifelines in the country that you are located in. Okay. With that said, let's dive in. Here is my conversation with Adam. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the other side, my friend.
YB, flight speed 872 to Southampton. This is the final call for all remaining passengers receiving immediately boarding at gate 148.
Adam Schluter. Welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend. It's been a long time coming. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for the
I like
time.
the guitar shirt. You got a shirt with a guitar that looks like it's flying through the air. Monday night dinner, something we're going to talk about today. Well, we're not going to start there, but I will tease out that it's a really cool thing and that it's something that anybody can do. And you're going to probably get that travel vibe if you do it. So we'll leave it there because you're going to have some practical takeaways. You know, a lot to unpack here, man. I'm super excited to chat with you about the project, hellofromastranger.com, where people can check it out. Of course, you have a trailer for the show coming up and everything. But I mean, I feel like you are really well-intentioned with this project. In fact, I know you are. And that's why I want to have you on, because this loneliness epidemic that you've been addressing for yourself, which kind of was like a scratch your own itch thing in the beginning, I think. And we're going to talk about that. It's obviously resonating with other people. I'm sure you've read this, where the Surgeon General's advisory in the United States in 2023, they equated loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of, like, from the health perspective. They were talking about social isolation and loneliness, increasing risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, premature death, all of these things. This is real, man. It's time for some real talk on loneliness, because I think that's something that, of course, we can all experience out on the road if you're talking from a travel perspective. But, you know, life is pretty long. I mean, I feel like we're going to go through some times where we might feel this way. I know I certainly have as an expat, being in a place where I didn't know anybody, which is part of your story as well. So, yeah, man, I just wanted to hear about the genesis of this project. And I think the best place to start is for you to just give an overview, kind of like the elevator speech of what it is. And then we can dig into how it started for you personally and why you started it.
Thank you. And thank you again for the time. You know, Hello from a Stranger, I don't know. I mean, the simplification of it really is, it's just a very simple going around the world with no plans. Something I learned I was fortunate to travel in the world with my family growing up, like teenagers. But we were really dumb and also didn't have money. And so my family had this travel agent that would just kind of book these random third world country trips because they were the cheapest ones. And we would show up with no plans and we had no idea what we were doing. And we were complete fish out of water and sketchy, like going to Venezuela and during, Chavez and wild stuff. And the world is really good to us. And, that was fortunate, but the world is a good place too. So I decided to just start moving around the world spontaneously, kind of the way that I grew up doing this with my family. So Hello from a Stranger is really just putting myself in new countries, new cities, also in America, and being just someone that has never been there, that doesn't know what to do, to really force myself in as an introvert, to force myself to have to interact with the community and strangers and locals to kind of figure out where I am and what to do. And, it really is an important thing of also having genuine conversations with people to help at the beginning, where I was at a place of thinking about suicide, very dark place. And really just needing to feel seen. I felt very alone. Social media just made me feel very alone. I just moved to a new town where I didn't know a single person. I went through a bad breakup with someone I loved very deeply. I thought I was going to marry, and I just felt invisible. And in that, my mental health just completely degraded. And I was just desperate to feel like I wasn't as alone as I felt inside my head. And so it's really just kind of an idea of, what if I just walk around and am awkward and have no idea what I'm doing, but, just try to talk to people and, just try to just see what would happen and come from that.
Do you think you got a lot of the confidence to do the very first trip, which I want to talk about the very first trip and the experience there? But do you think some of the confidence to actually buy the ticket and go came from the childhood experiences of just, ending up in these sort of countries and nobody in the family really knowing what you were going to do and not having any plans? Do you think you were like drawing from that to kind of get this, to pick yourself up and get out there?
Yeah, I definitely felt comfortable, going into the world and like not afraid of, just being completely brand new to like putting myself in a new culture or, a place where I didn't necessarily speak the language. But really, honestly, I was literally at absolute rock bottom, thinking about at the end of my life. And so I had nothing to lose, it didn't even matter. It was really just like just throw myself in here because I'm not going to make it sitting here any longer. So it really was just kind of a, F it moment, put myself out there and just see what would happen. So I wouldn't say that I was necessarily courageous. And in fact, the very first night thinking about what I was doing, really, and I didn't have any plan. There was no plan for this project. This was never like an idea. It was just more about literally just trying to feel less alone, only within myself. Didn't have social media, didn't have, I was just taking pictures of people. But I was so scared the night before that I literally threw up in my room, just terrified of the idea of just, I had no fallback plan and I didn't have a lot of money. I was a waiter at a restaurant. I'd spent the majority of my money on, and really it was just, I looked at Google flights and I only had a little bit of money and I just picked the cheapest flight that I could that would take me the farthest away. So there was really no plan here. And
where was it to?
Horrible. The cheapest flight from here was to Copenhagen, Denmark, which was great to get there, but turned out to quickly be, it's the most expensive city in the EU at the time. So I couldn't afford even like a shot of espresso was like €7. So it was awful. So I literally had no money and was able to spend, it was about $50 a day, like for everything, lodging, all that stuff. And not saying that that's nothing, but, just that was the amount of money that I was able to save up. So,
yeah. Is it hard for you to talk about now, as part of this, you're sharing your story and that's what you're here to do. And I know you're sharing it around and it's a pretty intimate thing to share. I was suicidal at this point in my life and everything like that. Is that hard for you to kind of talk about now? Or are you just like so distant from it now that you feel like this is furthering the mission? So I feel like this is important for people to hear, kind of thing.
100%. I mean, my main, I think one of the main issues we have going on right now with social media and technology and this disconnection is a lack of vulnerability, a lack of, looking on social media that, oh man, like everyone else has this figured out, but I'm depressed within myself, and I'm, alone. But if I look out on social media, look at everyone's got friends, man, and they got family and they're loved. But we know that's not really the truth. It's like the highlight reel, obviously. So for me, I love to have this conversation because it's not that I went on this project and it just solved my mental health. It's not like I've fought depression my entire life and I still fight depression. And so really the project just gave me the purpose and really gave me something to get out of my own head. But it's easy. And, I was able to set up some scaffolding around my mental health to know how to combat it a little bit. But it's all just kind of learning as you go. And I still fall into depressions. I still have times when I want to isolate myself and just really, just having to build up support around myself so that there's ways to get out of my head when at this moment. So I love to have these conversations. I love to be very raw and honest about them because I've always found that it allows other people to share with me too, their suffering and struggles. And I don't know how to solve them, but just I think sharing that space and knowing that you're not alone in the mental health crisis that we have today is enough for a lot of people.
Yeah, when you say you've set up a scaffolding, what do you mean by that? What kind of advice would you share to others that struggle?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at my darkest moments, I had nothing. I was terrified. I was poor. Didn't have a lot of money. I was scared because the one person that I deeply loved left and broke up with me and left me all alone. So I didn't really trust the world. I didn't trust people enough to let people be close to me, So what I really was starting to do is run. A lot of the beginning of this project was me just running, like escaping and like, trying to make sure that I wouldn't sit still because I didn't think I'd make it, just kind of ruminating. But an important part of this, like the scaffolding, was really I had to build support and I had to be very transparent and vulnerable. In the beginning, starting with strangers, and then, coming back, I still didn't know a single person in this town. I just moved here. So even though I'd like had this, an interesting start to this project, I still came back to a place where I didn't know anyone. And so I had to build community and support. And that meant I had to go out and be this awkward, weird guy again, literally walking up strangers in my town, but just trying to make meaningful relationships and friendships face to face, kind of the old school way of doing it. But to me, what's more natural. And then I had to tell those people what I was feeling and obviously I wanted them to also, but really create balanced relationships. But, I remember a lot in the beginning, like just a few friends I was making, I would just tell them like, hey, would you make sure to check in on me? Like, I have a lot of ups and downs and it's easy for me to isolate myself. And if I isolate myself for too long, I can fall into a deep darkness. And so just check in on me, stop by the house sometimes, and it's hard to ask for that. It's definitely like, you don't want to be a burden to people, but also you just have to tell people, what you need to also allow for them to tell you what they need also, and just really create kind of some balanced relationships out of that. And that's where a lot of the community came from.
That's awesome, Adam. The fact that you're willing to ask for it, I think that's such a gold takeaway here for anybody. I think, actually, I won't name names, but I had a friend pretty recently last year asked me the same thing of me. And from the other side, I really appreciated it that he was willing to ask, and sure, man, no problem. It can be hard to ask for things for sure. But yeah, if you need it, got to do it.
Yeah, and anyone that really struggles with that, I'll just tell you something I learned that really changed my perspective on it. Is very hard, especially when you're in a dark depression. You don't really think highly of yourself. So it's like, why would anyone else care? And like, I don't want to be a burden. And what I found was that I was robbing my friends and family from their intention of wanting to love me. So it was actually a pretty selfish act, and for me, like, I take it as such an honor when my friends reach out to me now and needing to talk, and because I love them and I do care about them. So we kind of think, oh, there's maybe a little pride in that, but also we don't want to be a burden. But it's like, no, like your friends love you and care about you and your family or whatever that is, even, one friend. But so give them the chance to love you, by telling them the truth and being transparent with them.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
This episode is brought to you by Fandango. People say fans are too distracted these days, but the truth is, when a great movie hits the screen, you show up, you stay glued, invested, part of the story. And without fans like you, there'd be no cinema magic, no shared moments. So head to Fandango.com to get tickets, stream, or rent or buy top movies and series. Fandango loves fans.
Now, back to the show. You went into this trip with this framework, this intention, let's say, to go and talk to strangers and just to put yourself out there in that way, because you felt you needed that connection. Now, some people might be listening and thinking, well, that's what you do as a solo traveler. You travel by yourself and then you go out and you meet people and that's what you do. Yeah, that's true. But I'm bringing this up because I think that the intentionality for yourself and the framework you made for yourself and all of the sort of energy you're putting behind that, where you are in your life, makes it different. You know what I mean? And I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that because, we can always try to categorize things, right? Like you could say, well, this is, if I was going to bucket this, I would say, well, might be like, less solo travel, I'm getting out to meet people and learn the culture, and more like travel is healing, you could say, right? But whatever you want to call it, there could definitely be some people listening that feel the need to get out on the road and do it in a certain way that's going to align with where they're at and what they need right now, right? And that's why I think there's a difference between saying, "Oh, this is just a solo traveler going out there and talking," and what you're doing. I want to hear your thoughts on that and any advice you would have for anybody that's sort of trying to put together like maybe a framework or an intentionality behind a trip for themselves or behind just a thing that they're going to do in life next,
Yeah, big reason. I think the intention behind why we travel is really an important part of us making sure to immerse ourselves in the places we're in. Otherwise there's endless beautiful places, but that emotional connection you have to the cultures and the people are really, for me, what's most transformative about traveling. That's how we really experience different ways that people live in the world and, share more of a diversity in humanity. So for me, like, in the beginning it was like, I'll just start by taking pictures of strangers. And, I found that I was still isolating myself in my travels. It was actually very easy for me to isolate myself in my travels because now I'm a ghost, walking through the towns that no one knows who I am. And, that was okay for a little bit, but it's easy to be surrounded by people and still feel very alone. And so for me, I really wanted to, and I had to break through that, for me to, again, feel seen, but also to really feel like I was more present in the different communities and cultures. So my intention was to learn from the places that I was putting myself in. And obviously to learn from those places, you have to interact with them and you have to listen to the locals. And, and it's such a beautiful thing because I love now, like with spontaneous travel, it's the only way that I travel. But then you go to a new place and you ask locals, where's your favorite restaurant in this town? Or like, I'm only here for 24 hours. What would you do if you could only be here for 24 hours? And not only do they love to share that with you, but 99% of the time they want to go with you. And now you have this incredible experience of seeing the world through the eyes of a local, of a place that lives there. And you're also honoring the place that, that their city, their town. And I really love a lot of third world country travel. That's the large majority of what I love to do because when you have poverty, people aren't as busy, not as much distraction. But also like an honest thing of it is, third world countries can have crime and, it's more important to be intuitive, obviously, and to be aware of your situations. I have pretty much never had a bad situation anywhere in the world. I lived in Mexico for 4 years. 30 something countries, 90% of that's third world countries. But as a part of that, like sometimes you're in a situation that you're just a total fish out of water. And so for me, you really need to interact with locals to understand the environment and understand. And locals will tell you, hey, like this is incredible. I wouldn't go over there though, or like, if you do this street, like don't do that at nighttime or whatever. And it's like wonderful, and just as a way to kind of make the whole situation deeper, but to see it through the eyes of a local. So, I think a lot of people see solo travelers, people bouncing around the world. Again, this is an issue I have with social media also, because you're really just seeing the highlight reel, and solo travel can be pretty complex. There's lots of difficult moments, missed flights, missed trains, moments where you can't figure out what to eat, you get sick, So I think really it's up to people. If you just want to go and do stuff as a tourist, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to go and see it through the eyes of a local, then it really requires you to leave your comfort zone a little bit and put yourself out there.
Yeah, I should mention, and I know the term third world country isn't used as much, of people mostly referring to them as developing countries, I would say now, but I think everybody understands what you're sharing. The ghost reference, the idea of being the ghost as a traveler, I remember during my nomadic days at one point just kind of thinking, like, am I always just going to be like the ghost in this town? Or am I actually going to be like one of these people that is living a life here in a place? And, then the traveler sees me and I'm part of this, landscape. It's always a curious thing because you are planted in a place where you don't know a lot. You don't know a lot about it. You don't know probably anybody. How do you personally open up conversations with strangers? Like, what have you found? And I'm fishing for some advice here for those, especially that are, sometimes maybe struggle to I want to connect more with locals when I'm traveling, but now you've been to 21 countries, maybe more, like doing this project and talking to a whole lot of people. And then we're going to get to what you've been doing even at home, which is another element of this I want to get into next. I think it's really cool that you're doing this in your home community as well, and some big things there. But yeah, what are kind of like the things that have worked for you in terms of getting people to open up? And like you mentioned, wanting to be seen. I mean, that's something everybody wants, right? Like that you want to be able to see, you want to be seen. What are some of your biggest lessons learned? What kind of advice can you share around that?
Love psychology, sociology. I find it also so fascinating, to just human communication has changed so much and evolved even obviously a lot in the last 15 years of social media. But it's funny because when I started this, my very first, getting to Copenhagen, I was so terrified that I was like, I have to have something really cool to say, like really eloquent. Like when I'm approaching a stranger, you better sound cool. You better sound like, I don't know, confident or like whatever. And the truth was I am an introvert, but I was so scared. So I was like, I can't sound scared, And so I'm like sitting there and I was like, okay, what sounds cool? And I was like, oh, okay. And I literally made up this script. And the script was, I'm photographing people all over the world, but only when I see something beautiful. And this is so beautiful. Do you mind if I have this photograph? And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like it's short, concise or whatever, gets to the point. And literally just walking up to strangers, especially in the beginning, everybody walked away, said no. My rejection rate was easily over 90%. And it was brutal, because it was like, here I am as an introvert, already terrified to say hello to strangers, already feel awkward and goofy.
You're like, this project's off to a great start.
Yeah. The very first person I said hello to said no and walked away on me, like the very first person. So I was like, oh my God. And so it was really cool what happened with that. Was I was like, okay, how do I evolve this little cool, powerful, hello and all this stuff and this script. And it was like, okay. And, then I started to really pay attention. And so the more that I would get rejected, I kept saying the same script over and over. I was so beaten down by the rejections that I was just exhausted, and I just became more vulnerable because of just exhaustion and, just kind of beaten down a little bit. And I didn't really have a fallback plan. That I found that the more vulnerable and the more I didn't know what to say, the more it was a little more awkward and stuff, the more people would open up to me. I'm like, what is going on here? No one's talking to me with this cool script I got, but everyone's talking to me when I'm awkward and goofy. And so it's like, okay, so it's like when you approach a stranger in the world, I think all of us can resonate with this. You have a millisecond and it's intuitive where it's like, is this person trying to sell me something? Does this person want something from me? Am I safe? Fair enough. All critical, intuitive questions you answer instantaneously. And so I found that everyone with my little script, they just figured this guy's trying to sell me something. I don't know what the heck this guy's doing, but I'm not going to talk to him, and not open up to him. So the more I went up and just was just kind of felt it out and did not think at all about what I was saying. There was some awkwardness, there was some goofiness, whatever. It felt just more natural and vulnerable because it is supposed to be. You're walking up to a total stranger and, I actually do care about walking up, and these conversations are not transactional to me. So it's that should feel a little, obviously a lot less of a presentation, but also a lot more vulnerable because we're both in this kind of, vulnerable situation of just seeing and noticing each other for the first time. And so that's where I just threw everything away and was I'm a very passionate, kind of a wild, just really excited. I love the world. I love out of my comfort zone stuff. And so I had so many people that would just be and it was so wild in the beginning, especially that would allow me to walk up, take this picture, and it evolved from just taking the picture, from having that conversation to then deeper and deeper conversations over the years. But that would allow me to have that. And then they would just walk away, give me the picture and never ask me, what are you going to do with it or what? And I was that blows my mind. And I would kind of ask them sometimes before they'd walk away or if it's close to that. And a lot of people just said, dude, you were so excited and like so like passionate. Like I couldn't tell you. How was I going to tell you no? And so like I think there's something really infectious and beautiful of like being able to feel that someone is like passionate but is genuine, and that they also and then excitement also, and there's a curiosity to it. There's like an innocence to that curiosity, that we can have lost in a lot of ways without this. And it's like we're in the world, like you should be curious about what you're seeing, places that you're in, and so I think there's just a natural, people are able to open up with that a lot more and feel that it's not fake, and that's the most important part. It's intuitively needs to be felt that this is genuine, and eye contact, but the more nervous you are, probably the better that is, because you should be nervous talking to a stranger, and the stranger should be back and forth, but it's vulnerable, and vulnerable is the most important part.
I think I can hear some sighs of relief out there, right out from the listeners. No, I mean, well, it is kind of a load off, because the idea that you don't have to come up with a snappy thing and you can just be your nervous, awkward self, and that can work, really kind of releases a lot of anything that you need to even worry about anymore, right? Like, let me just throw it out there. I mean, I always thought, like, just practically speaking, like the one you said before, like asking for a dinner recommendation, like a place for dinner, those are easy. It's not really a script. You're just genuinely looking for a cool place to eat. You're genuine about it. That's like a very easy kind of like, people are excited to show you something in their neighborhood that's cool. Asking for directions, of course, authentically. I mean, you don't want to necessarily make things up, but those are easy ways in. Yeah, just the genuine vulnerability. Like, anybody can sniff that out. Like, you can't fake that, really.
It's intuitive.
Yeah.
It
is.
And just think, like, if you're like, having a conversation with a stranger, and if you really want to like create that connection, I mean, you obviously you don't have to think about this. And I get it. It's scary. And so I do feel that we all need to practice just being human in these moments, because, like, it just comes with time to just be more natural in the moment, because we're always trying to think about what to say and, respond with something interesting, to like have a conversation. Or a lot of times it's like, I would rather either have something interesting to say or not talk at all. But really think of the human experience. It's like the person you're talking to doesn't know what to say to every answer, or like, what's going on. So that natural connection of like, asking questions, but really for it not to be like an interview, it's like just natural curiosity, but also just let it evolve and kind of flow from there. So
was it a success in terms of like where you were in life at that time during that trip? Did you pull yourself out of the funk you were in, if you want to call it that?
I did. But I mean, we're 9 years into this project, and I would say I made the most progress in my mental health over the last 12 months. And so it's been a journey. It's been a journey. It's been a battle, because it is authentic. I've fought depression my whole life. I would say that the two critical components that this project gave me, which I'm incredibly grateful for, is the very key objective understanding and like intuitive understanding and knowledge that the world is there and the world is there to share in your life. But you do have to put yourself out there the majority of time. And if you want to have a conversation, if you want to feel less alone, the world is there, and we're all surrounded by people all the time. And most people we're surrounded by are feeling alone too, especially in America, so they would love to have a conversation. And it doesn't need to be a 15-minute conversation. It can be, sometimes it can go to a dinner, it can glass of wine, sometimes it can be 2 minutes, and just this moments of acknowledgement. So it really taught me that like when I go back to my house where, my mental health can suffer the most because it's easy for me to isolate myself, I have the awareness now of knowing that I just feel this alone. And if I want to do something to feel less alone, I need to just put myself back out there, and it can be in my community, it could be to my neighbors, it can be to, the strangers around town. It doesn't have to be obviously in the world. But also what was really crucial is it gave me so much purpose, this project, because we never had social media. And when I came back, I was very fortunate to get a TED Talk on this project. And that was really like the first bit of like me even talking to people about this project. Like, and I remember there was this moment where I'd given my speech, and there was an intermission in between the rest of the speeches. And my family was there. We went out to lunch. And we're walking around this town, Spokane, close to where I live here. And there's this group of it's like 10 or 11 there's 2 girls, but like 10 or 11 people. And they saw me on the sidewalk and they're like, oh my gosh, like we were in your talk. And like, we heard like what you do. And they're like, we decided to go around town, this Spokane, and try what you do. Like just, genuinely talking to strangers. And there's 2 girls that were telling me this, and they're with like 10 or 11 people. And they're like, these are all strangers. They're like, we're all going to lunch like right now. And it's like, what? So like they understood it in a way that like, they're like, I can do this too. And then, started getting things of like, how lonely people are. And this is 8-9 years ago. So like things have only gotten so much worse, post COVID and everything. And so like this being way bigger than me, and also really wanting to show people that I've never known what I was doing. And that I've always been awkward and goofy, but that anyone can do this. But, so that purpose that came from that is really like the scaffolding that I needed to build around my depression and mental health, to know that if I give up, it's also given up on a lot of other people, and that's not fair.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment.
Expedia. Hey, you. What you doing? Scrolling? Doom scrolling? Looking at other people's vacations? Miami, San Diego, Cancun? Okay, what about you? What places will you go? Expedia is the one place you go to go places. Your trip can earn rewards which you can use towards your next eligible stay. Soon, people will be doom scrolling you. You'll be that friend's friend, but with rewards. What are you waiting for? Expedia, the one place you go to go places. Terms apply.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Now, back to the show. You told me in the email you never made a penny with this project. Your mission's to give back and make a dent in the mental health crisis, especially with the younger generation. Well, let's talk about how you've been able to connect people locally, because this is one of the things I really loved learning about and I wanted to talk to you about, was the Monday night dinner concept. And this just goes to the broader idea, I think, that there's certain things as travelers, I'm saying us and everybody listening here, like there's like a vibe you get within when you travel that just feels, you're on the road. It's like that excitement. It's kind of like whatever. And then you can get back home and sometimes, you can't always, it's not the same thing, of course. I mean, you're home, you can have that, but I always like, things you can do at home that kind of give you that feeling anyway, of sort of like travel, excitement and newness, and talking, like you have those random conversations in the hostel over in the kitchen while you're making a meal or whatever, like setting yourself up for those kind of situations at home, those situations that you treasure on the road, but seem maybe perhaps few and far between at home for whatever reason. But you've kind of found a way to bring this home. And I wanted you to share your story behind what you've done. And I think this is let's file this under the ideas to steal category if anybody's listening, please, and they want to do this.
Yeah. And I'll just start by saying, I'll tell you about it, but not only can anyone start this, but our team will work with you on how to start this in your community. We will help you find sponsors, all for free. We don't make a penny with this. We just want people to kind of, start their own and bring the world closer together, because literally anyone can do this. But I feel like, so when I got back from the first part of this project, like I said, I just moved to this town I live in now, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Random. I was living in Mexico 4 years. I was just, I wanted to move somewhere new, didn't have a lot of money, decided to do this big trip on the Pacific Coast Highway. Spent like 10 months on the Pacific Coast Highway. And I found this town randomly, felt like home. I spent 10 months on this trip and just felt like home. So moved here, did not know a single person, total random place, had no connection to it at all. Moved here with a girl that I loved, that we were kind of escaping together and escaping through a lot of stuff. So as soon as we settled down, relationship fell apart. She broke up with me. It was all alone. So I went on the first part of this trip and, is at a point just only to save my life. And I spent, I think it was like 6-7 weeks on that first part. It was like 16 countries with that. And so I it saved my life, but not in a way that, like I said, it was like, oh yeah, great, solved, good for the rest of my life. It's like, no, this is always a work in progress. And so when I came back, I was like feeling a lot more comfortable with, being awkward, talking to strangers, blah, blah, blah. vulnerability, being able to talk about mental health. And I was like, oh no, I'm back in the same place where I started, where I literally know no one. And now I'm all alone back in my home that I was renting. And
yeah, but you had more knowledge. You had more knowledge.
Yeah. And I was out of my head
more
a little
wisdom.
bit. More wisdom. And I was like, now at least I know what to do with it. But it's like, okay, what do I do with this? So it's like, what if I just start doing this in my town? Like, same idea. And again, this isn't like a present. It's not like, oh yeah, I need to do the hello from stranger. It's like, I'm just going to walk around my town, just be human with people in this town, like I was doing in the world also, and see what happens. And one thing that I always learned in the world was, and especially Mexico, was like, if you want to really connect with people, you have dinner with them, you share a meal with them. It's not this transactional 5-minute hello and goodbye. It's like, no, like you share a meal and you give a meal, is the hospitality. And I'm sure you've seen that in just beautiful countries in the world, especially those that have the least will always share food with you. And so my mom had raised us as kids when we were all moving out of the house, teenagers. I have an incredible mom who has inspired almost all of this, especially the dinners. And when everyone was moving out of the house, my mom's like, hey, every Monday night, can we all just come back and have dinner together, just our family? I'll make food, wine, all of us, no rules, whatever. Let's just, stay close connected physically. And so she's done those for about 30 years now. And it's always on a Monday night. And so Monday night dinners. And so I was here all alone, and I'm close with my family. I love my family. And so I was really missing them. And so I miss all the Monday night dinners. So I was like, what if I walk around my town and have genuine conversations with strangers just to feel less alone? But then at the end, what I learned in the world is just, what if I invited people to come back to my home and have dinner with me? Again, I was very poor. I had very little money. I could not support anything. We had, anyways, I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I just walked around town and people on the sidewalk, a cashier at the grocery store, a lady at the bank teller, like just random little beautiful moments of connection, and would just invite them to have dinner. It was pretty wild and pretty awkward. And literally it was like, there's no shot that anyone's going to show up. And 11 people showed up for the first dinner. And I swear to God, it blew my mind. I swear to God, I did not think a single person would show up. And this is pre-COVID. So this is like, when things felt a little more connected and, people were a little more conversational in person. And so they showed up and I had nothing. And I was like, let's sit in the backyard. I had a broken folding table and I was like, I have no food and I suck with cooking and did not have much money. So I had mac and cheese and I'm trying to make mac and cheese and I burnt it. Can't even make mac and cheese. So we had no food. We had water, but everyone sat around and no one cared. Like 11 people sat around the table and everyone's like, I need this. Like, I'm missing this. Like, a lot of people that grew up with like potlucks and like block parties and like, the ways that we used to connect in neighborhoods and stuff. And it's like, and I live in a small town and this is like what small towns love to do is like, be in a community. And I picked this town for the community. And so 11 people said, I need this. And I was like, well, I really need this. So like, let's just keep going. And so I was like, let's do it every other Monday. And they were so small in the beginning that we used to do them all year long. Because really in the Northwest, winters are very, very difficult and tough, not a lot of sunshine, long winters. And people really need it the most in the wintertime. So it used to be small enough. We used to do it inside my house here in the wintertime. But they just quickly started growing. And we had this moment where there's a major key change where we're all sitting around. I don't know, this maybe like 20 people. This is probably like 6 years ago. And we're sitting around. And a big part of these dinners is really like to hold space. It's like we're not just having dinner, drinking wine together. It's like also to talk and see each other. And like, you have the time to now. And we're all sitting around the fire at the end of it. And it's like, I don't know, 6 of us. And a good friend of ours that I had met, randomly, a guy named Justin Red, is there with us, and we're sitting around the fire, and he gets up to go home. He's like, I'm going to go home. And he stops at my back staircase outside, and he turns and he looks at me, and I really felt like something was off. And he looks at me and says, Adam, don't ever stop loving. He's like, you're so full of love. He's like, don't ever stop loving. And I was like, I'm never going to stop. You know that. And I put my arm around him. I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I was like, I'm never going to stop. You know that. And so my good friend Jack, who's my cameraman on the project and best friend, I was like, hey, go home with Justin and, make sure that everything's okay. And went back, and that night Justin took his own life and committed suicide. And it broke me. because I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, we were there together like all night, and he had so much time and space to ask for help, but like he never asked for help. And like then he goes home and I was brokenhearted, and I've been through a good amount of suicides with friends and ODs and friends that I've lost. And it's almost always broken up our friend groups, people that couldn't manage the grief, people that couldn't manage the memories, totally fair. But I was like, no, we're getting way closer because of this. And so the very next Monday night dinner, we did it in tribute to Justin, but we brought his whole family. We made all these, buttons for it with his face on it. And then I was like, that's what this is going to be, guys. Like, we are here to ask for help when we need it. We are here to be together, to like pay attention when things are off, and to like check in on people. And that was our first time. I reached out to a local band, was like, dude, can you come and play music? We have no money at all, but can you do it? And they're like, yep, we'll do it. And that was our biggest one. I don't remember, 40 or 50 people. And we just never looked back from there. And from there, life has changed so much. And then COVID everyone really realized the critical importance of face-to-face connection more than ever, and like how much we need to be together. And so the dinners just started growing like crazy. And this last Monday, 2 weeks ago, we just had our 90th Monday night dinner. And we had hundreds of people there. I don't know, 300-400 people that come to them now. Still in my backyard.
Oh my God. It's still in your backyard? How big's your backyard, man?
We are absolutely back. I'll send you the picture after it. You will see there's literally no more room in the backyard. It's not a big backyard. I have like a 1,200 square foot little craftsman house here. So it's not. People are in the alleyway. People are in the front yard. And it's really cool because one thing that I really loved about this was like two really important things. I've always said this is not my thing. This is not Adam's party. This is not Adam's dinner. This is everybody. And as soon as it's, because, we don't make any money with this, and it's very like difficult, a lot of logistics. So as soon as it's just my thing, like I'm going to stop these because I can't continue them without. So I made it everybody's thing. And so everybody has to play a part in it, so it's a full community thing. And everyone has to bring a side dish of food. And then once we started bringing in music, it's like, hey, would you all pitch in $5 to go 100% to the bands? And then everyone said yes. And so now it's like, hey, would you pitch in $10? 100% of every penny goes to the local arts, so we can, support the community. And so now we can give the bands thousands of dollars on a Monday, and everyone brings side dish, and everyone's so proud to show their side dish. And we put all around the same table, and, so it gives a lot of other people purpose. And then it was like, we need volunteers. And so we started putting together volunteers, and now the volunteers get so much purpose of being a part of this, and they show up early and they're there at the last, so it's just incredible. And now, we've never done social media with it. And so from just word of mouth organically, they're in 8 cities now. We're talking there. It's in 3 countries right now. And it's just moving around the world, all by word of mouth. But just people get it, and everyone's like, we need it. And what I love about it too is like a lot of people are like, I want to start this in my town, but it's totally fair. A lot of people don't want to be the weird guy walking around inviting strangers to have dinner. And so now I can kind of be the martyr in the dinners, So like, it's not your random. It's like, hey, I'm doing a Monday night dinner in my town. This is what they do.
Oh, right. Yeah. You can sort of adopt the framework and say, this is a thing I'm starting and I'm just hosting it kind of thing. Yeah. Right. Awesome, man. I love that. I love that it's spreading around too. Congrats. So, anybody that wants to start that, I guess they like in their town or whatever, they should just reach out. But, any other lessons or tips you want to share while we've got you? Just like the right way to do this? Is it just, have you had any issues with like somebody showing up and raising hell or something, or like?
Never. And you know something even cooler, so this coming Monday will be our 91st. What's so cool is I never told anyone what to do or how to act, like never. Like they get it. Like everyone gets it. It's like the one things I say is like no politics, no business, no agenda other than old fashioned connection, because a lot of people can start stuff like this and it's like a networking group, or there's some like, like transactional. We've been approached by a lot of churches that have asked it, and it's like, you guys are more than welcome to come, but you can't be a church coming here.
You're not trying to sell your thing. Just
not at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like a very clean space of like just genuine connection and putting people together and seeing what happens. So, there's just like, I love that I never told anyone how to act. I never told people to be kind. I never told people to really like, in the beginning, it's like, yeah, we're going to listen and pay attention to each other. But so many hundreds of people, now thousands of people each year that come to them, and everyone says like, everyone is so kind, everyone is so welcoming, everyone is so loving, everyone, and it's like, I think it just really gives people so much purpose to be able to be in that community space and to be able to, because they need it just as much as the people they're giving that to also, so we've had nothing but good experiences, and we're in, this will be my last season in the backyard because obviously we can't handle the growth anymore, and we're maxed out. But we're going to move it down to a big park here and continue growing it from there. But yeah, again, I started with no money, had no idea what I was doing, totally introverted, felt like the awkward, goofy guy, and you just kind of start it and then make it everyone's, so that everyone has to play a part of it. So everyone is helping also continue the infrastructure, the foundation needed with it. And, but also like giving people that there's so many, people that now that come up to me and said, I met this lady and, she's going through a mental health crisis or, dark depression. And I invited her to the Monday night dinners and she's coming tonight. And then she comes and then she makes a new friend, and now she has support in her life. So it's just such an incredible thing to continue to watch, but it's just keep it as simple as possible and make it everyone's thing, and don't think that you have to have money, really like ask for support. And also like local restaurants, local breweries, they love stuff like this because it's all part of the towns that we live in, it's local pride and it goes to a good cause. And so breweries are happy to pitch in beer, restaurants are happy to help with food, and so it's just a lot about asking.
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right. I'm looking on your website. I see this amazing picture of like a crowd of people just around like two tables. I don't know where everybody's sitting to eat. Folding chairs, and it looks like an awesome vibe. Send me that picture if you can, so we can post it up in the show notes along with whatever other pictures you want to send that we can, maybe we can give people a visual of the, some of the shots one or two of the shots you've taken on the streets traveling. And then of course, shot of you somewhere out in the world is nice. So people can get a visual on this stuff, but man, so cool.
And I guess I'll just say real quick, but part of the show and also what we're doing now is in every new place in every new city and country we go to, we're actually going to Japan in September to give them a Monday night dinner to teach it, really not like trying to impose anything, but more like, creating like a dinner of all the strangers that I genuinely meet. Because, we're still going to all these different cities and countries in the world each year. And I'm, just genuinely walking up strangers still. But at the end now with every stranger, I invite them to have dinner with us at the end. So, we spend a week in New York City and, going through all the boroughs and had to find a local, like a local deli that would give us their space. And then they offered the space, and then I invited strangers that I met throughout that week to have dinner with me at that space at the end. But it's really as a way to connect all the people that I meet with each other, so that that now when we leave, like they have this, that there's relationships formed because of it. People stay in touch with that too. So also now it's a part of the show and everything that we're doing.
And I guess because it's a potluck, everybody brings, so that you don't have to worry about getting the food and. Yeah, how do you actually make a living then? None of these things are bringing in. Is it photography or?
There's a really cool thing. So I'm 39. When I was in my late 20s, I was completely homeless. I was living out of my car. I had ran away from St. Louis. Another difficult relationship thing. But not homeless in a bad way. Like I actually loved it. I was free. I was light. I left St. Louis with a few $100s that I'd saved up at working at a restaurant again. And I showed up in LA. I had $27 to my name when I showed up to LA. And, a lot of also what I know about needing to ask for help, like being vulnerable with people, and a lot of what I do now is to give back to the world, because the world was always there when I had nothing and needed it. And so I remember this moment where I was actually in Big Sur, living out of my car, living out of a little tent too. And I had, I don't know, maybe like $40 or $37, something like that. And so I would allow myself $5 a day because I was still trying to make it down to LA. And I never once asked for money. I was never given money, never once. Like I was just like, I'd find a job on a farm or something random and save up a few $100 and, keep moving. But I remember writing, there's two things. I was allowed $5 a day, and I would try to spend $1 per day on something that gave me some joy, like morale, and So it was a pretty tough time. And there's this little market, the Big Sur River, and they had cans of Dr. Pepper or cans of soda for $1. And I'd have a can of Dr. Pepper every day. And that can of Dr. Pepper meant more to me than more than this house, more than anything that's happened, the last few years. And so like really this deep joy of like an acknowledgement of how little I need. And like, because of that, like how much now I can just give away and give back. But also like, I remember when I started coming out of that, I got a restaurant job in LA and then, got a better job and started to save up money. I wrote, when I had $10 to my name and I made $10, it meant everything. And when I had $100 to my name and I made $100, it meant everything. But when I had $1,000 to my name and I made $1,000, it meant nothing, like once like the basic needs were met. And so I've always just been very frugal. I've never really had anything. But then when I got here, I started, with photography. I met a good friend who taught me wedding photography. And I started photographing some weddings. And I went from absolutely nothing to making really good living for the first few years. And then I didn't need that money. And so I was able to just save it. And then I was able to just invest that money. And I've been very fortunate to just live off that now. And now I just give away everything outside of that.
So cool. What do you want to share coming out of here? I know what do you want people to walk away with here?
I would love if anyone wants to see what this project looks like in the world. Like Jason said, hellofromstranger.com. You also see the Monday night dinners on that. And you can also reach out to me personally through that for any help starting your own dinner. I really want people to walk away knowing that, like I said, this is not a solved process of that. I was suicidal in a dark place and I went out and, look at me, like, we have a show and all this cool stuff. And it's like, no, like I still struggle. I still have ups and downs. And I had to build that support and ask for help and tell friends what I needed so they could be there for me. Otherwise, I would have given up still years ago, still in the middle of all this. This project's very complicated. We've never made any money with it. It's not something that like, there's no fame. We don't do social media. It's like, this is not something that it's like, I'm a cool guy that's making a bunch of money traveling the world now. It's like, no, it's given me the purpose I needed to understand my suffering enough to not give up when I am in my darkest moments, which I still go into from time to time. And it taught me that I need to ask for help when I'm in those dark moments. And so having that purpose, making life bigger than me, started with nothing and that anyone could do, and really just, walking around their town, saying hello to the neighbors, saying hello to someone on the street, but that the world needs it so much today. It needs it more today than in every single year as we get a little more disconnected with technology and social media and everything. And so all it really takes is just swallowing your pride. And I don't say that to be cool. It just takes us not thinking about us to just genuinely just try to say hello to people, acknowledge people, notice people. People might walk away, they might reject you. It's okay. But like that genuine sentiment of just putting yourself out there allows other people that need it just as much to share in your life with you. And then you get to share in their life and have that support. They get to share in your life. And it just makes life bigger than the suffering that so many of us go through.
Beautifully said. Thanks, Adam. People should check out the trailer for this show that's coming up too. But I know there was a clip in there and the one woman said, you can save someone's life with a simple conversation.
Yes. And that was Lucia in Venice. And we walk around and I literally just told, it was all spontaneous and no one knows who we are. And like, no one's ever heard of Hello from a Stranger in the World. And, I just said to my cameraman and good friend, Jack, and I said, I really am having a difficult day. And it was true. And I just said, I would love to talk to someone about like just mental health. And like, and there's a million people. This is in San Marco Square. And there's a girl just standing there. It's Lucia, it's her. And I just walked up. It was just genuine and within 1 minute, we're talking about her mental health and anxiety. And this is not an interview, it's not like but just being able to share that together. And she shares that beautiful sentiment with me. And that's just an example. So many people are struggling out there and we get to share that with others as they share with us to remember we're not alone in that.
It's a beautiful thing. Certainly important to stay connected to our fellow humans. That's for sure. Good reminder of, all the things we have in common. Right. Thanks, man. It was so nice to connect, and we'll link up to everything in the show notes, of course. And yeah, encourage anybody listening that's been inspired by this to reach out to Adam. I know you left your email, adam@hellofromastranger.com. Of course, the website. And yeah, I would lastly just add that, if you're really feeling it in a certain way, like don't wait, go reach out ASAP. And yeah, I mean, reaching out in more ways than one, I guess, coming out of this interview, right? In terms of like, people, we need to reach out when we're feeling disconnected. It's important. So,
and sorry to interrupt, but just on that, but like, remember also, like, you're not a burden. You're giving your friends and family the opportunity to love you. That gives them purpose too. You're in their life for an intentional reason. That could be one person, but you're giving them the opportunity to love you. So you're never a burden in doing that.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Jason.
There you have it. Thank you to Adam. And I loved this conversation. It's something that made a big impact on me, and I really admire what he's done with this project, Hello from a Stranger. So please check it out, hellofromastranger.com. You can see all of the stuff we discussed there, and then we'll also link up to the trailer and anything else mentioned. So thank you so much for listening. I just want to remind you before I let you go and leave you with a quote to wrap this one up. You can sign up for our free newsletter over at zerototravel.com/newsletter to get in touch and keep in touch off the pod. I'm going to leave you with this quote from Brené Brown. Connection is why we're here. It is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by zerototravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.